Now that we made it through Halloween, the real scariest time of year is upon us. Christmas time. Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming at you to begin my holiday, festivities reviews, to basically review some, Christmas themed horror movies and maybe some Christmas comedies to wrap up the year of 2018's reviews with those wonderfully themed holiday joyous themed movie reviews. So the first of which is going to be my review of a little known movie by the name of Don't Open Till Christmas. This is a movie from this is the Vestron video VHS here. It says 1985. This is the original Vestron VHS release that's in a clamshell from that I probably got previously viewed at Video Update and back when they were purging their VHSs. This is a movie that I've known about obviously since I got it, and I think I've watched it like maybe 2 or 3 times. I just rewatched it just recently so I could review it. This movie is the only other movie besides Pieces that I'm aware of that I know of that features Edmund Purdom. Of course, he was the dean in Pieces. This movie not only stars Edmund Purdom, but it's directed by Edmund Purdom. So it's Don't Open Till Christmas, which is of course a great kind of an idea for a horror movie, Christmas horror movie, and a great title. This is a UK movie. This movie was shot, I'm assuming Edmund Purdom is like a UK, guy from the UK or whatever. This movie's shot in the UK, like in London or something like that. And so, for you people who don't know, that's where this movie is shot. Basically, it's a very simple, you can tell its budget is ridiculously low because of like this Edmund Purdom, I think, is supposed to be an inspector at Scotland Yard, and the offices, obviously they shoot the real sign, but then they cut to inside it, it's just some little room where with a desk and stuff that's supposed to be his office or whatever. Kind of not particularly impressive, but this movie starts with this guy who's dressed as Santa, who's just getting off work and meeting up with a woman, and they go into a car at night and park and gonna start screwing presumably, or whatever the hell they're gonna get on to doing or whatever. And this is kind of, the movie starts with a kind of a cool shot where it's like a point of view from the killer. There might even be like the heavy, cliched heavy breathing and all that kind of stuff. But the camera kind of goes from one side over the other side, and the lovers in the car are kind of like, the guy's like, "Hey, get out of here, bugger off," and the woman's like, "Oh, just ignore him, oh." And the guy's getting more upset about the peeper than the woman is, and the peeper, the guy, I don't know if he's still dressed in the Santa suit or not. Probably, I don't remember. But the guy who was formerly dressed in the Santa suit at the beginning of the scene gets out of the car and is like, bugger off, blow out of whatever the hell he says. And I think he's stabbed, and I think the woman, of course, starts screaming. I think she comes out, maybe has stabbed herself, and that begins the opening credit sequence of Don't Open Till Christmas, one of which is the opening credit sequence is kind of cool, and just thinking about it now, I didn't realize it while I was watching it, but just reviewing it now, it occurred to me that it's kind of like the opening title sequence of the original Halloween, because on the left side of the screen there's like just a Santa, little Santa toy thing that's just sitting there, and all of a sudden it just starts on fire. So while the credits are happening on the right side of the screen, the Santa is like just burning up on the left side of the screen. So it's kind of like the opening credits of Halloween, which is it's a cool thing to see. I mean, that's imagery I can get behind, burning Santa imagery. Not being a big fan of this time of year, of course. I mean, as I've said in so many reviews in years past, that I like Christmas lights and the Vince Guaraldi, Charlie Brown Christmas album, and I like certain things. I'm a fan of Christmas lights, but other than that, and some of the Christmas tunes or whatever, because I grew up with them. But other than that, like what it's about, or freaking the religious implications, or the other side of it, the consumerism implications, I'm just completely against. So now that you know that, I can go on with the review. Basically, this movie is about a killer. Instead of it's funny because you can still call him a Santa killer, but he's not a Santa killer that's dressed up in a Santa suit. He's a Santa killer that kills Santas, or kills people dressed up in Santa suits, which is a kind of a reverse, because this is right around the same time, of course, that Silent Night, Deadly Night was being made and released. So it, you know, I don't know if these are being filmed at the exact same time or what, but it's kind of interesting how the same year, around the same year, you've got a Santa killer who's dressed as Santa killing, and then you've got a killer who kills people dressed as Santa. So you got the best of both worlds, one from each side of the pond, if you will. So that's what this movie basically is, and you know. Then the next scene, I think, introduces like the main characters at a Christmas party or something. This woman, this relatively attractive woman, and her boyfriend or whatever, and you know her dad is going to play Santa at this party, and her dad comes out revealed as Santa, and only to see this mysterious figure, cloaked figures, like kind of move in front of the frame and out of frame, and to see like him off to the side, holding a spear and like throwing it, you know, at Dad dressed as Santa. And this it's kind of cool because Dad's got one of these party things that's like doo doo, and it comes out like that or whatever, the piece of paper. And as Dad blows that, the spear comes from behind his neck and comes out of his mouth. And when it comes, it's sticking out of his mouth, and then the thing goes and comes back, you know, because he got killed. It's just kind of just ludicrous. The kills in this remind you of the kills in Don't Go in the Woods, like the original movie. Not I haven't seen the other one, but you know the kills remind you of that. Like they happen and they're done before they even start. Like they're so quick and just ridiculous. But that's a fun kill. It's just like, oh my God, and obviously that, you know, continues on or begins the premise of this woman, the daughter of the guy killed, and her boyfriend, and it's basically just back and forth. I don't know how long this is, 80 minutes, 90, I don't think it's even 80, or I don't think it's even 90 minutes. It says 86 minutes on the tape. It sure seems like a lot longer, but basically that's all the movie is going back and forth between, you know, guys in Santa outfits being killed, and just Edmund Purdom playing the, you know, Scotland Yard detective, and he's, you know, just the scenes with him and like, you know, his partner and stuff are just dialogue that's just not even, doesn't further the plot or the story or nothing. It's just like, oh, let's just we'll have an inspector at Scotland Yard scene now, and oh man. So there'll be a little bit of, you know, Edmund Purdom as Scotland Yard guy questioning someone that you know, the questioning session doesn't even frickin' unveil any decent, you know, frickin' details or anything he needs to know. And then it'll be a Santa killing, and then back to Edmund Purdom, and oh, this vicious killer, what can we do? And then back to, you know, then we'll see the blonde girl, you know, the daughter of the guy killed in the Santa outfit, and the boyfriend, and then back to a Santa killing. The Santa killings, I will say, I think for the most part, even though they're like over before they even start practically, they're fun. Some of them are more interesting than others, like just different ways of offing Santa. Like I think one of them is just some drunk Santa just in the alley, just and then just a gun just blows his, you know, head off, not off, but you know, just shoots him in the face. And it's just, then we'll see some detectiving, and then back to some other Santa, and just, you know, just. So if you know, this is a good anti-Christmas movie in the sense that if you want to see Santas killed over and over in different horrible or not so horrible, you know, or creative and or non-creative ways, I mean, this might be your movie. It should be said that I can't stress it enough how, you know, all of the supposed like character study stuff and Edmund Purdom as this inspector stuff is just not interesting pretty much at all. There's this one scene where there's this, you know, kind of gratuitous female frontal nudity where you got this model, this photo shoot to this model who, I don't really like British women, like, you know, when they talk, it's just, and they got the accent, like it's, if I see a naked British woman or a topless British woman and she's talking, it's just like, oh, it kind of just, it ruins it for me. Like, I guess if they're not talking, it's okay, but if you see a topless British woman and she starts talking, it's just like, oh. So that's a little insight into me, but one of the cooler scenes is this woman, of course, gets, you know, dressed up in a Santa robe for, you know, a risque kind of a, you know, nude risque photo shoot or whatever, and I can't remember why she ends up outside at night, but she ends up being chased by the Santa killer in a kind of a, you know, Santa erotic scene or whatever, where, you know, she's just basically topless in underwear and this Santa robe walking around outside at night. I can't remember how she ends up there, but, you know, the Santa killer's wearing this stupid, you know, one of those masks that's just like a clear plastic mask or whatever, and for whatever reason, maybe because she's a woman, once he, you know, I guess he's kind of like aroused by the topless woman in the Santa robe, and also the fact that she's not a man. Maybe she gets a pass, and he actually doesn't kill her, so lucky her, I guess. This movie is just pretty much as random as they come. Then there's some older guy who enters this striptease booth where, you know, there's a glass in between the girl and him, and they start talking, and it just seems like, what the hell kind of a booth is this? Just to talk, but then, you know, they start talking about taking her clothes off and stuff like that, and then of course this guy who's dressed as a Santa and works at the, you know, whatever, some department store nearby, has just gotten off work, or he's gotten off work and now he wants to get off again, so he goes to this strip, you know, whatever, the strip glass place or whatever, the strip, oh my god, that's just, and she's like, you can do whatever you want on your side of the glass, and it's just like, all these images came into my mind, and it's just like, it's more horrible than anything we see in the movie. But, you know, this guy, this scene goes on for a little while where they're just talking, and then he gets just slashed, I think throat slit or something in front of her, and it's just, I think all the blood splatters on the glass, and it's just, so if you like just random horror movies that are just like senseless whatever, and then random killings, and, you know, in particular this one of course being Christmas themed, you know, you might like this. Not that you're going to be able to really find this movie, I don't know if it's on YouTube or what, but just random, you know, Santa, you know, people dressed as Santa killings. I should have counted how many, you know, killings of people in Santa outfits there are in this movie. It's probably, you know, a better part of 10. I don't know if it's up to 10 killings of people dressed as Santa or not, but that's basically what this movie is. Oh yeah, the killer ends up, because the stripper behind the glass saw the killer's face when the killer killed the guy who's, you know, there to visit the stripper. The killer ends up coming back and kidnaps the stripper, and, you know, and brings her back to the lair. And there's this goofy newspaper reporter, I think, who ends up being the killer. You know, the guy who plays the killer is kind of, you know, does it kind of well and is kind of creepy or whatever, but I mean, there's no intrigue, or there's no, you know, this movie just goes through the motions for the most part, and it's just literally random, just, you know, inspector stuff, killing Santa, inspector stuff, killing Santa. And what's so funny is you think they accidentally have like an interesting scene with the inspector. No, it's all just like boring. There's even one scene where he's just walking around, you know, presumably London or something at night, and just, you know, walks past the Scotland Yard sign and walks past a band playing on the street, and it's just like, oh, here, there's something going on, let's just film it and put it in the movie, because we need, you know, we're basically filming a whole feature-length movie that's nothing but filler with, you know, kills of people killing Santa, so let's put this in there. It's just like, oh man. And one of the funnier kills is this really fat guy where he's seen oogling this other chick, kind of attractive, busty chick, for a brief moment out in public, and then we see him later on, like just a moment later or whatever, in a Santa suit, going into a bathroom to piss, you know, in a stall, or in one of those, you know, one of those things you, as a man, you stand up, a urinal, is it a urinal, I think? I'm not a bathroom enthusiast, but he's standing up, pissing into the urinal, and then, you know, just like a knife appears and just cuts his dick. I mean, we don't see it, of course, luckily, we don't see the dick, but we see what's presumed to be cutting his dick off, and all the blood just splurting into the urinal. So, I mean, that's just an example of just the random kind of kills. And as I said, they're over, a lot of them are before they even start. It's just like, why we, you know, this is a horror movie, why are you going through the kills so quick? Like, have some fun with them and just, you know, exist within the kills for a minute. It's just like, it's almost like Edmund Purdom is you know, doesn't like the killing aspect of the movie, so he's getting through the kills as quickly as possible so he can get to the next scene where he's just pretending to be an inspector. And, you know, maybe Edmund Purdom really wanted to be an inspector in Scotland Yard, and this was his only way to do it. And we can see now why he never was one, because when he's playing one, it's just boring, but whatever. I mean, you gotta love good old Edmund Purdom, I guess. Oh yeah, that's what it turns out to be. The killer ends up being the Edmund Purdom's crazy brother, and the backstory with them, just like, you know, Silent Night, Deadly Night, of course, except for, yeah, it was pretty much the same thing, is there was when they were kids, there was like a Christmas party, and I think Dad was dressed up as Santa or some crap, and then later on after the party, like, it's kind of like Christmas Evil as well, at the beginning of Christmas Evil, then the kid sneaks upstairs to find Dad like screwing, messing around with one of the young, the young attractive partygoers or something, and Mom gets up there and finds out, and Dad is like fighting with her, and Mom accidentally falls down the stairs. So at the very end of the movie, we're introduced to the fact that the killer actually, I forgot about that, but I've got notes that help me review things when I don't know the movie as well. So having reviewed the notes, it's like, oh yeah, the killer is Edmund Purdom's, the inspector's crazy younger brother, which is kind of whatever. I mean, again, it's very much like Silent Night, Deadly Night, except that one of them isn't an inspector at Scotland Yard in that movie, but very, very similar. So at the end of the movie, we see the event that, that sparked all of this killing spree, basically. And what's so funny, at the beginning of the movie, Edmund Purdom gets a freaking Christmas package in the mail that says "Don't open at Christmas," hence the title. And then at the end of the movie, when everything's all figured out, and I don't remember, I think the woman, the stripper girl that he's got kidnapped, escapes, and they, there's a chase upstairs, and she pushes him over the balcony, and the guy falls to his death or whatever. And then the last scene of the movie is Edmund Purdom, coming home, and I think at some point, where he has a flashback. He's the one who we flashback the events of their childhood with, not the crazy killer, which is ironic. And then at the last scene of the movie, Edmund Purdom goes to open, on Christmas Day presumably, goes to open that Christmas present he got, and it just explodes, and he falls out of the chair, and that's it. The credits roll. And it's just, I remember when I first saw it way back in the day, just being having such a fun time with how the movie ended, just like, it's just a bomb that's just been sitting there for, weeks or whatever, and presumably his brother sent, and his brother's already dead, and now the bomb he sent him killed him, and it's just like, oh man. So this is a delightfully stupid movie. So even though I'm praising a lot of it, and it's, obviously it seems like I enjoy a whole hell of a lot of this movie, unfortunately the majority of the thing, it's like, 80 minutes or, whatever, nearly 90 minutes of just boring crap going on. So I'm only going to be able to go as high as 3/4 stars out of 4, 3/4 stars out of 4 stars for Don't Open Till Christmas, even though it's got a lot of fun bits and very abbreviated, killings of people dressed up as Santa, and an exploding package at the end of the movie that takes out its receiver of the package or whatever. It's mostly just boring, random stuff, and like I say, Edmund Purdom spending the whole movie just trying to just play the part of a, some kind of interesting Scotland Yard inspector, when it's just, none of the scenes of him investigating anything are interesting, or he never does anything that's any good or anything. So I guess that'll be my review of Don't Open Till Christmas. I would imagine it's relatively rare movie to come across. Like I say, I don't know if it's on YouTube or not. Who knows, maybe someday it'll come out on Vestron Video Blu-ray or whatever, but it's definitely not something that I'd spend a lot of money for or waste too much time seeking out. But if you can happen buy it for an inexpensive price like I did, I'd say go for it. It's definitely one of those, kind of goofy kind of Christmas movies to add to the annual watch list, if you will. So thank you very much for watching this review, and as always, we'll catch you on the next one.